Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank you for joining us in this edition of Accelerating Digital Operations in the New Normal. Today, we'll be focusing on digital shelves, where we're going to have our panelists, Rubel Joseph and Sarab Sharma, share some very useful and relevant information about what's happening in the digital world. But before I go on to introduce our panelists properly, I'll just tell you a bit about our sponsor, and that's eClerx. Now, in a nutshell, the best word I could use to describe eClerx is technology and solutions. As a business, for over 2 decades, we have applied technology in resolving a lot of business challenges and developing solutions. Now, we've been fortunate to have worked with Fortune 500 companies, spanning multiple industries. Now, part of what makes us unique as an organization is the fact that we believe every business is unique and every challenge is unique as well. So we spend a lot of time and effort to understand what the needs of our clients are, and we develop a solution that's tailor-made to address the challenge that they come to us with. Now, we're able to achieve this how? Well, we've got over 10,000 members of staff spread over 17 locations around the world, in the United States, in Europe, and in Asia. And through our capacity in terms of staff, we're able to focus on delivery. Now, we've earned a reputation of delivering high quality solutions. So this is a reputation that has earned us the right as well to be able to share the information we have about what's new and what's in trend with various aspects of the digital world. So there's a lot I can say about eClerx. Now, what I'm going to do is just get a few announcements out of the way, and then I'll introduce Rubel to carry on with this session. Now, we would have a facility for questions to be asked during the webinar. Now, if you look at the bottom, there's a Q&A button. All you need to do as a listener is to click on that button and type on your questions. Now, at the end of the webinar, after Rubel and Sarab have shared what they have to present, I'll read out the questions and they can answer. Secondly, for those, for the part of our audience who are Spanish speaking, there's a button for an interpretation service. You can just click on this button and you'll be in the same room, but the audio will change. We've got an interpreter who will be able to translate what the panelists are saying, so that you can understand and you can also see what's happening on screen. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Rubel Joseph.
Excuse me,
Rubel is.
Yeah. Excuse me, this is interpreter. You have not chosen the interpretation option yet and selected me as the interpreter. So if I would begin to speak, I would actually be speaking over him.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
You have to select me as the interpreter and send me, and then I'll get a pop-up just like I just did. And now I'll be going over to the Spanish channel, and then that way we can do it simultaneously. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. So I'm just going to introduce Rubel. Now, Rubel is a lead solution specialist, and he's been doing this for over 10 years. And he brings deep expertise in developing data and analytics-driven solutions for companies in multiple industries. Now, it's a lot of interesting stuff Rubel has to talk about, and he'll be talking about the latest trend in digital shelf optimization. So, Rubel, over to you.
Thank you so much, Shola. Just confirming if I'm clearly audible, and I'll just confirm the screen share as well. All right, so segueing into what Shola mentioned, today we are here to talk about how the whole digital transformation has happened, how it has in fact affected e-commerce players, how it has affected retailers and marketplaces as well. And what are certain winning strategies that we have seen work for some of the best-in-class clients that we work with, and bring those learning to all of you here. That's the main objective. With that said, needless to say, all of you are pretty aware about how the whole shift to online has happened, especially post-pandemic, and even before that, the whole boom with e-commerce players, marketplaces, and so on. Now, if you compare the two journeys that we are talking about here, imagine walking into a brick and mortar store, the stages that a customer has to go through in that part of the world. Right? So right from knowing which product is available in which of the stores, to then going ahead, searching for them in the right aisles, the right lanes, right sections, and being able to find the right brand and product that you're looking for. Then the consumer picks the product up, looks for the packaging, looks the look and feel of it, checks for the price, checks if there's a discount available, and then finally makes the decision to purchase or not, right? Obviously, the journey does not end there. How do we ensure that the customer comes back, is loyal, and is an advocate as well for that product, the brand, and the retailer itself? Now, if you think about it, the whole journey, the leeway that we have to have a competitive edge is kind of limited, is what I would say, compared to what you have on the online side of the world, right? And you will see that in a bit. Let's try converting that whole analogy into the online world, right? The stages would be similar, but if I may highlight one key difference, that would be the ability to leverage data, technology, tools, and platforms, analytics to drive each of those touch points much effectively and efficiently, right? So what are these touch points? Right from making sure you have the right products on the online shelf, they are available at the right time, at the right place, to the right customer. Then making sure that it's visible, which is essentially your listings, your search ranks. With the millions of products that's out there, how do you stand out when someone comes and searches for something that's relevant to you? From there, definitely we have much more leeway to build a compelling content in terms of product specifications, pricing, images, videos, and whatnot. Compared to the offline side of the world, like I told, this is an area that you can leverage in a big way when it comes to the online world of things. Pricing, everyone is talking about dynamic pricing. We'll talk about that in a bit, but that's where it is headed towards. How real time, how competitive can you be determines how successful you are as well. And ratings and reviews, a lot of dependency on that today. Customers rely on ratings and reviews a lot before buying any product. And hence, all of these lead to a much more better place where we can leverage competitive intelligence to drive some of these touch points as well. Across all of these stages, now you are seeing interactions between the two sides of the world as well, right? So things like researching online, purchase offline, buy online, pick up in store. All these are enabling omni-channel journeys, as we call it. So how do you leverage all of these? How do you make sure that you're on top of the game and have a winning strategy or a winning game plan to drive each of these touch points? That's the prime question that we will focus on today. What does that winning plan or winning strategy look like, and how do you get there? So when I say winning strategy or game plan, as you can guess, it's not definitely a one-man show or a one-team show, right? An entire organization has to come in a unified, integrated manner to make sure each of those touch points that we talked about are well cherished as well. So when it comes to availability, definitely your supply chain needs to be on top of the game. They need to understand where are the sales coming from, how much sales would come in, etc. That was a traditional way of doing it. But today, are we able to leverage demand indicators? Can we forecast demand in a much more accurate way? Right? So can we estimate customers' needs and demands? That's where we are heading to in terms of making sure the right products are always available on the shelf per se.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Robel. So has this trend been more prevalent now, I mean, following the pandemic, or is this a trend that has been ongoing even from, before the pandemic started? Or is it just now that companies are starting to see the relevance of digital shelves?
Yeah, I would say the trend has always been there ever since the e-commerce boom. Post-pandemic, what I would say has happened is there are certain behavioral changes that has happened in each of these areas. Right? So what does a compelling content look like? What does pricing look like? The way consumers are reacting to that, the way consumers are behaving in those areas, that has changed drastically. And we'll talk about some of those insights in a bit as well. Yep. So then your product category managers, the SEO team needs to come in to make sure the search ranks are optimized, the content is optimized, like I mentioned, because that's what drives a customer towards the purchase funnel, right? At the top of the funnel, we are just making sure we have the right products to offer, but these two would be the starting stage of what a purchase funnel looks like. From there, the merchandising team and the consumer experience team comes together to make sure the pricing is right. We talked about making sure that the price is dynamic as well as competitive. We'll talk about what does an element of dynamic pricing look like, what are the key aspects that you should consider when you talk about dynamic pricing and all in a bit. Then we talked about how the ratings and reviews game has to be won. How do we ensure the right rate, positive reviews are on top? How do you make sure your NPS score is high? How do you make sure that someone who has purchased from you once, they turn into your brand advocates and so on? And finally, across all of these, competitive edge is primarily the key aspect or the key differentiator, I would say. I'm pretty sure most of the folks would be doing all the 5 things that we talked about, but how do you do that in a more competitive fashion? How do you get the right data in place? How do you get the right market intelligence in place? Right? All of that forms what forms a winning strategy, if I may call it that. And then finally, how do you ensure great brand journeys? Because we are not just talking about a one-time iteration of the purchase funnel where someone comes in and we sell a product. We are talking about a long-term sustained loyalty journey as well with all the consumers that we have acquired. Right. So essentially, that's what we call as a winning strategy, comprises of these 7 or 8 game plans that each of these teams needs to take over and be accountable for. What we will do in the next 10 to 15 minutes is to talk about each of these in a bit more detail, where I will focus on what's happening in the industry. To Shola's question, what's the consumer behavior that we see, or what's the insight that we are seeing across some of the clients that we work with and the consumer behavior that we analyze, right? And hence, what are some of the upcoming new things in terms of solutions and technology capabilities that help you achieve that really efficiently and really faster as well. So having said that, availability, pretty needless to say, consumers are less conscious about brand right now, or maybe if I put it the other way around, they are more open to shifting brands during journeys, right? What that means is if you don't have the right products available with your brand, there's a high chance that they might find an alternative, right? Either with some brand, some other brand, or maybe within your brand if you have a close-looking product. How do you counter for that, right? Because like I told, unless and until you are making sure the right products are there, they will buy from someone else. 3 key aspects here. One, like I told, is all about being able to forecast demand. How do you use some of your statistical approaches, data models, analytics models to drive demand forecasting, right? That's really changing the game for some of these players out there. From there, the next 2 steps is to do what we call as goal-seeking assortment. For example, not just restricting yourself to making sure what the customers need, you are making sure those products are there, but also looking at, hey, which are the top 50 products to sell if I were to maximize my margin? Which are the top 100 products to sell if I have to drive, say, customer acquisition, if for that matter, right? It could be any of those goals. And the whole game or the plan around availability or assortment is to make sure that you're optimizing for that goal, right? Rather than just making sure maximum products are out there on the shelf. A key aspect is also around making sure you are analyzing lost sales. Whenever you don't have an available product, what does it mean in terms of sales for you? And what does it mean in terms of sales for competitors and third-party partners as well, right? So that's a big learning exercise that a lot of industry folks are going around, that what does it mean in terms of not having a product available at the right time, right? Because that then gives a lot of learning feedback loops to go ahead and work on. Moving on to findability. I know we have probably reached a stage where all our answers start in a search bar, be it Google, be it e-commerce. Most of us, that's the first place we go to whenever we have to find something, right? And that's the case with e-commerce as well. This whole search ranking, listing, making sure you're on right on top of the top products that are there in terms of a particular search and so on. For example, you may be on top when it comes to your usual listings, but if someone filters by category, if someone filters by price range, someone filters by color of the product, someone filters by brand, how do you make sure that you are still up there visible? Because a lot of people make that decision within the first or second page itself, right? No one really goes to the third or fourth page, and that's true for most of us as well, if I may think about it. Right. So hence what becomes important is at least being aware where do you stand. That's the first step, making sure that you're conscious of where the search ranks are. Is it right on top? Is it falling? How does it compare with some of your top competitors? And from there, moving on to make sure that each of those scenarios are optimized as well. Right. So how do you optimize for keywords? How do you optimize when a category filter is put? How do you optimize based on certain scenarios that the customers are searching for, right? And making sure that the right keywords that customers are searching for are tagged to the right products that you have to offer as well. Right, so that's all about findability. Moving on to content, I will probably not go through all the details here, but in a nutshell, the summary that we are seeing here is that everyone understands and believes this is a big part or a big success driver, but one of the most complex things to achieve as well. Purely because of the volume, the time it takes. I know it's easy to say personalized content, dynamic content, but implementing that takes a different level of skill set and technology capabilities altogether, right? So the whole question is, how can we leverage some of the new things that are coming up around AI, computer vision, personalization engines, right? And make sure that this whole content piece is solved as well. Right? Because needless to say, everyone understands that this is what makes the product pitch a very compelling one. Having the right images, the right videos, product specifications, and so on, so that the customer can decide if this is what he wants, right? But then a lot of our clients that we work with, a lot of industry leaders are still stuck with the problem of how do we make it faster, how do we make it more dynamic at scale as well, because we are talking about millions of SKUs. Each of those SKUs may have probably 10, 15 different images and videos as well. How do you take all of that, make sure that it's compliant? How do you make sure that it's personalized? How do you make sure that it's always popping up for the right next best action or the call to action? Right. So all of that becomes very important. And later part, we will probably talk about some of the recent technology advancements that have come up here that help us do this much faster as well. Talking about pricing, I guess we have already kind of touched upon this quite a few times. But when I said dynamic pricing, it's a function of a lot of different things, right? And not just demand, which was the traditional way, just looking at price versus demand elasticity, and then making sure you are operating at the right price ranges, right? Along with that, 3 or 4 key solutions that we are seeing in this space. One is how do we bring in more intelligence to it, both competitive as well as your internal demand metrics. Looking at click rates, looking at real-time online behavior, where's the customer headed, which sort of pages is he searching for, is he comparing certain products, right? So can you optimize your pricing near real time based on all these indicators? Combine that with the traditional demand versus elasticity curves that you would have. All of those are cases or scenarios that we are heading towards and realizing value as well. Right? So because pricing, as you can guess, is a big factor or a big influencer in that purchase decision itself. Couple of other interesting things. One is making sure the long tail is covered. What I mean by that is you would have certain shadow products. When you introduce a new product, do you want to keep the pricing such that it cannibalizes the other product? Do you want a halo effect between the two products, one driving the sales of the other? Do you want to bundle and give a bundled price as an offer to the customer, right? So these are obviously questions that will come up as and when you try to scale up the whole dynamic pricing pieces as well. That's about pricing. Talking about ratings and reviews, what we found was everyone relies a lot on ratings and reviews, not just in a consumer world, but in marketplaces, in across e-commerce, across different verticals that we work with as well. Right? So from a company-driven marketing or an internal marketing per se, customers are now moving to a more word-of-mouth reliance in terms of the ratings that they see on the platform. Right? And obviously, you don't have a lot of control here because you can't really get paid reviews and ratings. That's a different question altogether. But then how do you make sure that whatever are the right things to show, those are being shown as well, right? And obviously, the larger objective here should be to identify the pain points that customers are talking about, the issues that customers are talking about your products, about your e-commerce platform itself, about your delivery system, and over time, make sure that you are at least addressing those, right? And that's a big game changer. Like for example, for a lot of retailers, we proactively monitor their social media platforms, social media pages, the reviews that they get on marketplaces, and summarize that in a way of learning that can probably go to the product development team, that hey, these are the 5 things that customers are finding faulty about the product, right? Can we do anything about it? Certain insights should go to the website team, for example. Maybe there's a bottleneck in the purchase journey itself. Certain would be just consumer experience, right? Maybe they are looking for support. We just sold the product to them, but then we are not able to provide the right kind of support that they expect from us. All these pain points, themes are things that will pop up when you start really analyzing these reviews and ratings, right? Because this is where the customer really speaks their heart out in terms of the challenges that they have. And if you are able to mine those, learn those, take actions based on those, that will be very fruitful in the long run as well, right? That's level 1. But like I told, this is pretty much a gold mine of information that we are sitting on top of, right? How do we leverage this whole customer experience, branding, ratings and reviews game to make sure the right buzzwords are being spoken about? Are we able to identify influencers who could really be advocates of our brand? Are the right reviews or the positive reviews, highest rated reviews always on top when we search for our products, right? So all these are things that you need to enable, and all of that, like I said, is backed by the ability to mine this data, leverage insights out of this unstructured data that we have, bring back those learnings and pass on to the respective teams so that they can go ahead and optimize those areas.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I will probably pause here for half a minute break before we move on to the last 3 topics and I enter the last session. Any questions at this point of time?
So far, we've got one question. Now, you mentioned competitor. You mentioned competition and competitor analysis. Now, how easy or how difficult is it to actually go in and get information about competition in trying to determine the pricing for for your products?
Sure. So short answer, is it difficult? Absolutely yes. It's probably a question that not a lot of people have yet answered. How do we get competitive intel, right? But are there workarounds? That's what we are talking about here. For example, anything that's publicly available, right? You can leverage that for your advantage. What I mean by publicly available, you go to Amazon, you are selling a product, your competitor is selling a product. You can obviously scrape that information in terms of how many units do they have available, what price are they selling at versus are you selling at, what are the reviews that are there on their page versus our page. What's the delivery time they are offering versus we are offering, right? So anything that you see publicly, that's, I would say, a rich source where you can get started off with, right? That's level 1. Level 2 would be then leveraging that and some of these next gen algorithms like forecasting competitor sales, trying to estimate what your market share is versus competitors' market share, right? So these are proxies that you can adopt. To your original question and my original answer, will this be 100% accurate? Definitely no, right? Because it's competitive intel, confidential intel for a reason. But the whole objective or the idea is to leverage whatever we have, use those as proxy, and get as directionally accurate at least as possible, right? And as they say, at least something is better than nothing. So at least you have a directional indicator of where do you stand versus competitors. That's the right way to look at it. But can you be 100% accurate? I guess still the answer is no.
Thank you, Rob. I guess Saurabh will be addressing some of that during his session. So maybe I'll just let you carry on.
Sure. So last couple of pieces, I guess we talked about brand equity powered journeys. I guess the adjective brand powered is quite important here. When we talk about journeys, I talked about how There are cross-channel journeys also happening, right? People deciding on online platform, going ahead and purchasing on the offline platform, vice versa as well, probably. Right? All those interactions between channels, platforms is also something that we are seeing a lot, especially post-pandemic as well. Right? So pretty much everyone has shifted to an online channel now. Even if they have a brick and mortar store, there's an online channel that enables some touch points for the offline store as well. Hence, what becomes even more important is to adopt what's called as omni-commerce. That's a new term that's being coined. The whole objective is to make sure that whatever you show to the customer on online channel, in terms of all the things that we talked about, the pricing, the branding, the product specifications, the ratings and reviews, all of those should continue for a customer when they shift from one channel to the other, right? And that also involves an element of personalization, dynamic pricing, competitive element, near real-time actions, and so on, right? So that's
I was about to ask that same question.
Yeah, that's absolutely the game changer here, right? Because everyone talks about optimizing journeys, which is offline journey, online journey, but how do you look at it as a omni-channel journey is really the game changer, right? Because the consumer does not care, right? Consumer is here to buy a product. He searched for it offline or online and bought at the other channel. He needs that continuation of the journey, right? Imagine a situation where you search online, you see maybe $100 for a product, you go to an offline store and suddenly it's 120. Right? That's definitely not a great experience for the consumer per se. And hence it's the brand or the retailer's accountability to make sure that the consumer is having that omni-channel experience across platforms as well. And hence all the aspects that we talked about, making sure that they are consistent, scalable, learning from each other, highly personalized to the consumer and the journey, all of that becomes much, much more critical as well. And finally, I just want to close with the overarching two messages that we talked about. One is everything around competitors. All these things that we talked about, competitors' pricing, competitors' availability, competitors' share of sales, competitors' ratings and reviews, right? So like I told, at least some of them we can get hold of through scraping, through APIs, through data extraction, third-party tools, etc. The question is, how do you bring all of those capabilities together to really create a compelling competitive strategy, right? Which involves mainly two pieces. One is just keeping an eye on the competitor, right? Just making sure whatever they are doing, are there any learning that we can get from there? What's happening in the industry? Is there a buzzword or a hot topic that's being leveraged and working well for a competitor, right? Like, for example, when Olympics happened, a lot of brands started using that as a branding message or a promotional marketing message, right? If it has worked for certain industries, can we learn from that and adopt something from there? How do we make sure the messages in marketing are real time based on the buzzwords that's in the market as well? That's one side of it. Second is the whole aspect of benchmarking yourself and monitoring it, right? Like, for example, like I told about assortment, right? When a competitor changes their assortment, does it warrant a change of our assortment as well? How do you optimize the right portfolio of SKUs that we have on our shelf? All these are questions that will get answered with more intelligence. Not that people are not doing it right now. Definitely it's happening. But then all of these questions will get answered in a much, much more intelligent way the moment you start monitoring and benchmarking yourself against the industry and the competitors per se. Right. And the last piece is definitely relevant for a lot of brands that are out there right now is the marketplace navigation, right? All the 6 to 7 things that we talked about, absolutely relevant in the marketplace side of things as well. But there are certain challenges that marketplace comes up with as well, because at the end of the day, it's not your own website, but someone else's website where you are selling. Hence, the competition becomes even more tougher. There are 100 brands selling out there. 100 SKUs available, different search mechanisms, which there is a myth that it keeps changing as well. There's a myth that Amazon keeps changing its search ranking algorithm every now and then so that people don't figure it out. Right? I still don't know whether it's a fact or a myth. We'll let you know as soon as I find that out. But the whole aspect is around how do we leverage these marketplace mechanisms to our advantage as well. Right? So can we make sure, again, assortment on the marketplace is right, the search ranking on marketplace is right versus your competitors, right? So how do you create a brand for yourself on these marketplaces, especially something like Shopify is like really changing the game in that aspect, right? Compared to maybe an Amazon for that matter, who does not pay that much attention to brand related pages, if I would say, versus Shopify, who has that brand advantage. And definitely Amazon has the scale game where they sell pretty much A to Z, and probably the first place that everyone goes now to search for products. Definitely a big miss if brands are not on marketplaces. But just being there is not good enough. Like I told, how do you leverage all of these dimensions, all of these certain processes, certain marketplace add-ons and features that you have to your advantage? This is what would really change the game. And then based on the trends that we see, that's only going to go up from here, where more and more brands are going to shift to marketplaces, and that will drive a huge part of their overall online sales as well. Yep. So that was my last key message. We talked about 7 or 8 different winning strategies and the how of it, which is where the industry is headed towards, some of the new things that are coming up and how to tackle this game plan. What Saurabh will talk about, and I'll hand over in a second, is how to get this done. Right? We talked about a lot of next gen things, a lot of advanced things, but how do you make all of this happen? That's what the next part is going to be about. So yeah, back to you, Shola.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple more questions, but
sure.
I'm aware that we're trying to keep within time. So I'm just going to very quickly introduce our next panelist, Saurabh Sharma. Now, Saurabh has over 15 years in leading operations delivery for Fortune 500 companies across different industries, including consumer brands, manufacturing, and distribution. Now, Saurabh is very experienced in the area of digital shelves. So, Saurabh, I'm just going to let you take it from here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shola. Again, just confirming if you are able to hear me well and have the presentation up.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Rubal. That was definitely enlightening, and that kind of sets the stage on what then everyone should be doing. Now, what we have definitely seen and working with large variety of clients globally, we continue to see these 7 strategies that Rubal spoke about are something that is very absolutely required and something that needs to be timely deployed across large spectrum of teams. So it's not just the one team that typically will be involved in making sure that you are able to succeed in what we call digital shelf, but working across category teams, across commercial teams, be it the brand marketing teams or the advertising supply chains. What we definitely have been fortunate is to be able to work with our clients to offer our technology, which is Market 360, as one-stop digital shelf analytics platform. Now, the fundamental of where the challenge generally comes across is making sure that there is a solid data layer that is being set up across all those areas that Rubal talked about, which allows the client to understand what and where the action is required. And that it becomes a very difficult task. The reason it becomes a difficult task is at any given point in time, a brand may potentially be selling thousands of products, across hundreds of digital properties, be it marketplaces, retailers, even their own site, mobile apps, and so on and so forth. And there are so much of volatility, be it the competition volatility or day-on-day fluctuations that may potentially ultimately impact how they are perceived by the competition, how they are perceived by their end customer, and how they are actually being demonstrated on the digital shelf. And that's typically where we continue to see our clients look at how and what type of data sets that we can enable through Market 360 to help them understand their digital shelf presence, help them understand how they can accelerate their online sales, look and understand where their brand equity lies as of now based on customer feedback, based on sellers selling their product, as well as ultimately to gain the competitive advantage, right? The golden rule or the golden achievement that they want to have. Now, how that is essentially done. Now, be it a digital shelf, ultimately means that you are required to monitor a large spectrum of data points. And each of these data points have its own, importance. If I look at any customer journey, the customer journey typically will be to start with a discovery. And as Rubal was highlighting, most of us as a customer will typically go on a search engine, be it a Google, be it on Amazon, be it on other search parameters to start our journey to discover what we want to buy. After we have done some of the discovery, we are looking at where, what should I essentially be buying, which is typically my browsing behavior of understanding what is on the offer before I ultimately make my purchase decisions on what I'm ultimately making, what I ultimately want to buy. Now, with Market 360, what we are able to do with our clients is to make sure that all of these attributes are getting captured through our platform, and that is then enabled for them to action associated with, be it optimizing the assortment, be it optimizing their seller presence, making sure that you are able to have very strong price competitiveness, making sure that you have better understanding of what your competition pricing potentially will be and how you should be dynamically pricing your own products, getting a better understanding of why your customer is buying or not buying your products, to get deeper insights into those drivers and ultimately helping drive those conversions with your customer. Now, why this can become more difficult? I'm sure there are hundreds of tools that can potentially capture this data. And if you look at any typical product page, you will imagine here as an example, a large spectrum of data points that can be captured through the platform. Now, it can become more difficult primarily because each of these data points represents some action that the marketplace or the retailer will consider. For example, how your products are placed, how your products are ranked, what type of content is being used, what type of conversion. So each of these are dynamic attributes that changes almost on an hourly and sometimes instantaneous basis. And for us to enable an ecosystem which continues to monitor and give you insights into where those actions are important is required, becomes more and more critical and more important. What our technology is able to do is able to identify nuances and parameters across every single product page that may potentially be listed on a marketplace site, be it your own products or competition products, and help identify parameters that may help understand how your products can be discovered, be it search discovery, be it product ratings and review discovery, help identify how your product is being positioned, be it the way the content is being displayed, the information that describes your product that is potentially available is on the website, your availability of your full range, your inventory status, or be how the purchase ultimately may potentially be happening, be it the pricing that may drive conversion, it may be promotion, it may be seller who is probably listed on the website that is driving conversion, or the competition who may be listed on the website. What we are able to bring through our platform is making sure that we're able to capture more than 8,000 websites globally across 45 countries to capture information on a daily basis to identify these individual data points that ultimately translates into those actionable insights that will ultimately help us identify what are those actions that you need to take to help improve your digital shelf presence. Now, how does that translate into a real world result? So I want to just point out few of the metrics that we continuously monitor on behalf of our clients. And these are metrics that our clients have seen day on, day out in terms of how that ultimately drives their performance. Now, these can be in terms of what they are able to sell through the channel partners. It can be how quickly are they able to identify opportunities that they where they have to take action, how they are able to improve their conversion, how they are able to improve their customer satisfaction, and so on and so forth. What we tend to believe is that by monitoring all of these parameters, it allows us to quickly make sure that we are able to present real-time alerts and real-time updates to our client, which allows them to understand what actions needs to be taken and help them accomplish those actions on the targeted platform. So I'll take one example of one of our clients who is a high-tech manufacturer supporting them globally. Their use case typically was to get a better understanding of how their digital shelf presence looks like. And the reason why they had this challenge was primarily because of multi-country presence, primarily because of multi-site presence, and a large amount of volatility that you would have seen with their presence in those sites. So as of now, for this client, we have deployed a Market 360 solution which caters to around 70 websites, both including global marketplace sites as well as local players. Some of those local players and global players is listed on the on this particular slide. What we are able to make sure is that we are able to bring back a daily governance associated with how each of these digital shelf KPIs behaves on the website, and where there are opportunities to improve essentially. With the actions that we were able to identify, the client was able to accomplish 15% increase in their sell-through through those retail marketplace sites, as well as quickly identify top opportunities that where they need to action, which will ultimately help them drive either conversion improvement by deploying better content for those SKUs, or improving actionability with regards to how the SKU is essentially available on those websites or not. What you have also seen is, I'm now showing you some live examples of the Market 360 dashboards, which is something that a client use as a self-service platform to help them understand where those actions potentially will be. Now, if you look at typical actions when it comes to product data or product inventory availability, we tend to see a lot of situations where a product may be potentially out of stock, and being out of stock is a big no-no in an e-commerce world. This may directly drive an impact to their sales, and not just their product sales. Even if the product comes back online, it will continue to have a downstream impact, because the search ranking may potentially get impacted. The overall visibility of that product will get impacted, and so on and so forth. So through product availability monitoring, we are able to help identify those out of stock situations, which ultimately allows our client to take actions on where inventory changes needs to make place, and that can be by channel, by country, and so on and so forth. Similarly, having a better understanding of competition is always going to be a critical stage, and that competition may be driven by both your own product's price sold by multiple sellers, or by your competition comparison. Ultimately, what you are trying to drive is to make sure that you are competing with the ultimate customer who's coming on the website to make the purchase, and you're able to identify any seller of your products who may potentially be eroding your prices, and that can be in any particular channel, it can be in any particular country, and so on and so forth. So again, through Market 360, we are able to closely monitor price changes and price movements, and help identify those issues with product pricing compliance. It can be identifying disruption with regards to how SKUs are potentially listed. What we also do, and something that Rubal touched upon, is content. Content is becoming, I think, the number one parameter that almost each brand typically look at. And that can range from making sure that every aspect of the content that may potentially be available, that represents your brand, is as per the brand standards. And there is less likely of any seller or any channel partner who are potentially selling your brand to erode your brand perception or brand equity. What we are able to do through Market 360 is to help identify those content improvement and opportunities to help make sure that you can take advantage of what the customer feedback is about your product, and how your brand is being perceived, to make sure that you are able to overall improve your visibility of your product on the website. And last point from my side would be more around also continue to make sure that we monitor who is ultimately selling my products. It can be my authorized sellers, it can be my unauthorized sellers, to help identify any third-party sellers who may be selling products who are counterfeit or suspect. So again, All of this is something that is being brought back through the Market 360 platform to make sure the user is able to understand where the challenge with their own product listing may potentially be and where those things can be acted upon. This also enables a very, very strong data layer, which allows the clients to kind of act upon improving those potential areas. Now, what we continue to do at eClerx is to make sure that we are able to bring on new innovation in our platform. And Market 360 is a core solution within eClerx, where we are making sure that we are adding new data science modules or new innovation on the platform. And these are some of those initiatives that our data science team are enabling through Market 360, be it driving, getting a better sense of how some of the KPIs that we are measuring, be it the price KPI or the product KPI, changes over a period of time and what their behavior will be in future. We are also helping clients look at sales and not just their own product sales, but potentially also estimating how much their competition is able to sell. As I think Rubal was alluding towards earlier, it can be a bit tricky to help monitor competition sometimes, but making sure that our platform is able to give you a fairly high degree of confidence on your competitor point, provide a competitor point of view, is what Market 360 also is enabling. We also look at other parameters, be it help understand sales driver, or be it how to understand your own presence by enabling things like image analytics on potential campaigns that is being run on marketplace retailer sites as well. And to make sure that the tool is far more functional, we continue to embed new ways of utilizing the tool, which may include automated insights coming out of the platform, as well as use of chatbot on the platform as well. With that, I'm on the last slide of my presentation. As a company, we have been fortunate to continue to provide support of market and competitive intelligence over the last 20+ years. We continue to make sure that we are able to bring our own 8th generation award-winning platform to these solutions, and that may include working with more than 400+ deployments that we have done of our platform, as well as enabling a larger data set, as well as larger ecosystem solutions through our AI ML platform as well. So we continue to kind of innovate around those lines to make sure that we offer a highly flexible and a customized solution to our clients, and continue to make sure that we bring you the right set of data, right set of insights and actions that allows the business to potentially grow in those specific digital shelf ecosystem. So with that, Shola, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Saurabh. I'm just aware that we are sort of creeping up with time. Now, I've got a few questions here, but I think we have time for just one question. And I think this might be directed to Rubal. Now, you talked about strategies earlier. Now, will there be challenges in implementing some of these strategies in a marketplace or third-party e-commerce portal as against my own website?
Yeah, I'll give my 2 cents, and then obviously Saurabh can add more as well.
Okay. All right.
There are, I would say there are pros and cons on the marketplace side when you move to that side of things, right? So the pros are there are a lot more to capture, which is especially some of the brands that we work with, some of the retailers we work with, they find marketplaces a great channel to expand to new markets, right? So consumers that they have probably never even thought of, consumers who probably were aware about their brand. How do we enter those markets, go-to-market strategy, better customer acquisition, purely because of the volume and scale that marketplace provides, right? That's the pros side of things, and that's where I mentioned that most of the brands are shifting, because that's where the action is going to happen, and a high percentage of online sales is going to happen on marketplaces. The cons is you don't have enough control as much as you have on your website, because you can't probably do A/B testing on marketplace. You can't control the search mechanism on marketplace, right? So all those are marketplace mechanisms. Yeah, and hence it becomes even more important how well you leverage that data, leverage those processes to still be on top of the game on a marketplace scenario as well. That becomes the game changer then.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that, Rubal. I think that's all we have enough time for. Just a few announcements before we wrap this webinar up. Now we will be having our series on another series on accelerating digital operations, which was meant to hold on the 19th. That has been moved to the 2nd of September. So would like to let everyone know that we are still going to be running the digital transformation series on the 2nd of September. Now, one more thing, for those who have questions related to what it is we've just presented you with, or maybe it's a unique challenge that you might have, please feel free to book a meeting where we can discuss one-to-one. Now, a link will be sent after this webinar where you can actually book some time out where one of us will be able to discuss exhaustively what your challenge is or any questions you might have. Once again, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. I'd like to say thank you, Rubal, and thank you, Saurabh, for your time. And yes, so bye, everyone, and till the next time.